We know AI is taking a huge role in marketing agencies. How do you see marketing agencies evolving over the next 2 years? What do you predict?
I think the future is absolutely moving to where the mundane tasks are stuff that none of us are going to be able to bill for in a fairly short amount of time. But as AI rises, the human aspect that we've been discussing is the thing that will provide value to clients and provide more value than it does even right now.
And I think we are going to see a divide in marketing agencies because some are going to quickly adopt all of this and some of them are just afraid. You have to get on board now or else you're going to be left behind later.
We all have to learn how to use these tools, and the bar has never been higher for providing good service to a client. But it's what you add as a human being and as a creative, like to both of your points, as you've been saying, like it frees us up from mundane tasks to be more creative and do better work and higher level work for our clients.
Welcome to another episode of SEO On-Air. I'm your host, Koa Kauwe. This is brought to you by Stan Ventures. I have intentionally chosen 3 guests today that are going to help us discuss the topic of passing the vibe test in marketing and realistically like what that means with content. And I know it might feel subjective, but we have 3 people that have experience and are going to share their opinions with us. We're excited to dive into this. To help us understand who our guests are a little bit better, I'm going to give them each a chance to share a little bit about their background and tell us the company that they're with. Starting with Peter, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Peter Malick, and my company is Inbound AV. We're a HubSpot partner. We do a lot of design and development. We have, for the last year and a half, seen this train starting to pick up speed coming down the track called AI. And so we've really shifted a lot of our focus to that and how an agency like ours can stay relevant in a world where everything is being automated.
I like it. I feel like I'm seeing some agencies that are putting themselves on the train tracks and some that are getting ready to jump on the train. So
tied to the tracks, yeah.
David, please tell us a little bit about yourself and your agency.
Thanks. I'm David Arato. I own Lexicon Legal Content. We create SEO and AEO focused content for law firms and digital marketing agencies with law firm clients throughout North America.
Perfect. We'll be excited to dissect what that means because many people will not understand what that means. And Megan, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Megan. I'm the founder of Legends Legal Marketing and the author of Trust is the Strategy. And we focus on trust-based marketing for law firms. I've been doing this for about 15 years now. So our methods are strongly rooted in story and building trust with potential clients.
And I think when I chatted with you is when I decided that the theme of this podcast needed to be passing the vibe test. And so I appreciate you kind of giving us the perspective on this. I'm going to open it up with a pretty vague question. I want you guys to just start the debate here, but what does it mean for a brand to pass the vibe test today? What does that mean to you guys?
I think that's a really, really good question because with the changes as quickly as the culture is changing because of AI, and also the world is changing, and the uncertain nature of the world, I don't think any of us actually know the answer to that question.
I think the vibe test is just being more real and being unique and authentic. So I think we've gotten away for a long time. We've gotten away with producing like what we call like easy generic content, and I think the vibe test right now is not just the standard EAT stuff, but also looking at the authenticity component of things, how unique it is compared to everything else that's out there. And I think that search engines and AI search, they're paying attention to like, are we all saying the same thing? Who's saying something a little bit different? And is it thought through a little bit more? So I would say the vibe check and really passing that is the key focus is authenticity. And with that comes a little bit of vulnerability. So for brands, for lawyers especially, and for professionals and small businesses, I think it's being less buttoned up than you think you should be.
I'm going to jump in on this and piggyback off of what Megan's saying. I couldn't agree more. The barrier to creating unoffensive generic content is the barrier to entry is zero. Anyone can get on ChatGPT or Claude and write 1,000 words about what to do after a car accident in Delray Beach, Florida. Anyone can do it. And Google's going to ignore that content. It's probably not even going to index it. If you're not adding anything new to the conversation or sticking out from the sea of AI slop that's being produced every single day. Google has no incentive to serve that content. And it is by design generic. The LLMs are creating generic content by design because they're pulling on the corpus of existing information on the internet.
I agree with both of you, but my point was more around, take for example, people spending $8 million on a Super Bowl ad. There's some brilliant stuff that comes out of that, but there's also the unpredictability that a piece of content can be created that ends up harming the brand. And that's kind of the unknown that I'm talking about, is that we're all looking for fresh ideas. We're looking at ways to be relevant. I 100% agree that authenticity is the formula, but how that authenticity plays out in a marketing campaign can also have unpredictable results.
I'm going to ask Megan a question. Are you familiar with James Helm of Top Dog Law?
I am not, no.
So he's with rankings.io. And I've met James a couple times at conferences. He made a really, I think, bold decision to lean into past addiction and recovery as an attorney. And I think this speaks to what you're talking about, that a lot of lawyers are buttoned up. They don't want to talk about an unsavory past or something that they're embarrassed about. But this, and Peter, to your point, could this be a liability? Or is this content that's actually standing out, right? Like, he's putting his stake in the ground saying, this is who I am. And it is not the sea of content that other attorneys are producing. As a result, people know his name.
The personalization of it is really what's working. And that's why lawyers and I know we're not just talking about lawyers, but David and I work with lawyers. So a lot of lawyers, individuals, brands, all of these things, focusing on your own story, telling your actual truth is really resonating well with not just search engines, but AI models. I've noticed it's been really, really effective for AI models because they are reading for truth. They are looking for trust and truth when they're indexing and reading all of this content. And so when they get to a biography page on a business's website, and it's something that's building trust with a potential client, it's also building trust with these AI models. And it's also not saying the same professional obituary that everyone else is laying out.
And it's flagging you as a real person, right? Because that's what the bots cannot do. Let's talk about the first E of EAT, experience, expertise, authority, and trust. AI doesn't have experience. Human beings have experience. And I think leaning into that, and a related concept to using personal biographical information to stand out, is information gain, adding something new to the conversation. And that new thing could be your personal bio. Because again, no one can replicate your personal experience as a human being. Similarly, adding new information, whether that's original research or synthesizing data that's publicly available, creating new data. I think LLMs, AI search, Google is hungry to surface new data that's being created and new information that people are publishing.
I want to jump in here. Or Peter, did you have another thought?
No, I was just going to mention that I think, if you look at a lot of actors, I'm in Los Angeles, a lot of actors are worried that they're going to be replaced by AI. But I think the thing that everybody in the entertainment business is overlooking is that an actor is not a famous person simply because of their skill as an actor. It's about their life. It's about, their relationships. It's about, being out in the world. And AI can't replace that. And I think by the same token, for what you're both saying, is that to make an attorney into a person that is human, that maybe has had an addiction problem in the past, just really makes that person stand apart right now, but also even more in the future as a lot of people go after AI slop.
Yeah, and one of those points of connection, like just to add another E to all of the E's in this, is the concept of empathy. So I think that the example of having a previous addiction problem, especially if you're a criminal defense lawyer, that's going to gain you empathy with your potential clients. You really understand what they're going through, similar as a divorce lawyer who's navigated their own divorce or their own child custody issues, or an estate planning lawyer that got into this work because they dealt with a traumatic loss of their own and had to do that. So I think the empathy component, we talk about AI and these are machines and it feels very ones and zeros and black and white, but in reality, there's a lot of feelings that are involved in this.
So are you advocating adding another E to EEAT? So we're going to have triple EAT?
We're going to triple EAT officially on this call.
I think you're absolutely right. And I think the broad umbrella for what we're talking about is humanizing content, right? That's the broad umbrella, is creating a human connection with your reader, which I don't think AI output does, at least today, maybe next year, who knows?
I thought that empathy was sort of basically a 2023 kind of thing.
So I always tie things back to like my background in sales. And my wife opened a business and I was like, man, I've met amazing marketing companies across my time in the industry. And I'm like, who would I work with? And I feel myself connecting to what you guys are saying really well, because every single one of them is good at marketing. Like I could talk to any of them and they'd probably do a good job with my marketing. But who I'd want to call is who I've connected with the most. And essentially the internet's getting just incredibly smart. And it's trying to connect you with who you would connect with the most. And if you haven't produced content that like personalizes that company, it doesn't know who that is for you. And it's just providing generic slop. Like you guys are saying, you really have to create a personality for your company to connect with someone that's searching in LLMs.
So that's part of it. And that's where it's like the your story comes into play as the individual or the brand. But the other part that's going to make you hire this person over this person is that they see you. So the other component, and this is primarily a copywriting thing as well, is showing the person themselves in your copy. So there's the concept of Carl Jung's hero's journey as a storytelling method. And, we have an adapted version of that we use for lawyers. But the concept is that your customer, your client, that is the hero of the story. You are not the hero. You are the guide. You are Yoda, if this is Star Wars, and you are there to guide them. So they need to trust you as the guide, but they need to see themselves as the main character. They're bringing the main character energy and you are supporting.
I love that.
So we used to rank content and now you're essentially answering questions, and it's an endless field of creativity. I'm curious how you guys are navigating the fact that the internet already knows a lot about what your customers do. Now you're trying to create beyond that. And how do you just continuously churn and create new content? Because I think that's one of the most complicated things I see with content creation today.
I mean, we've been doing this for 15 years for law firms. And you can never run out of things to talk about, first of all, especially in legal. I always talk about it like peeling back the layers of an onion. Like even if one practice area, there's plenty to talk about and plenty of content to create. I think importantly right now, as search becomes more conversational, it's really important to imbue that conversationality into the content that you're creating, because the journey used to be like stereotypically, you're in a car accident in Denver and you Google Denver car accident attorney, you click the first person on the first link that comes up. These days, that search is more like a conversation. I was in a car accident. Who should I call? How much is my case worth? How long do I have to file a claim? Et cetera, et cetera. And your content needs to be responsive to those conversational questions that the user is searching in order to appear in both LLMs and in Google AI overviews, which, by the way, are triggered by 80% of legal searches, which is pushing pay-per-click ads and the first organic result way down the page. So really devaluing organic results these days in favor of AI overviews. And I keep going back to legal because it's where we work in, but in any industry in which AI overviews are being triggered, it's essential to create conversational content that's going to be responsive to what your potential customer or client is searching.
And having those on-site FAQs is a good way to do that. But to the question, like, I don't find that we're running out of content. I find that the content is ever expanding because there are the questions that you think are top of mind with people, and then there's the questions that people just come up with out of left field. So one of the things we really encourage our clients to do is have some kind of call rail or recording system for all of their incoming calls. And so speaking about AI a little bit differently now as a tool, one of the things that we do is use AI to analyze those phone calls, because that would take forever for a human to do it, and distill questions specifically in the words of the person who called. And we learn a lot about search marketing and keywords and all of this from listening to the words that people are actually using. So it's not always even about continuously creating new content. It's about updating the content you have based on what people are asking. And as things change, as years progress, our dictionary expands. Like Gen Z has introduced so many words, new words into the marketing world that we didn't have before, and that's going to continue to happen. So I think that continuously adding and writing new content for one brand, yes, there's a lot that you can do, but going in and refining and updating and adjusting the content that you have is also really good for your ranking. Google sees that you're refreshing things. AI sees that you're staying up for date. So that's another tactic as well.
I have a question for you guys. In a world where our culture is becoming more and more suspect of big business, big government, whatever, I know, speaking for myself, if I were to be looking for an accident attorney, the last company I would call is the one that has billboards all over the freeway, because I know that I'm not going to get the service that I want to get as from finding an actual person, an actual attorney, not some face on a billboard. Have you seen that play out in search results?
Majorly. In both search and in with AI results, we've seen a lot of, well, in general, if you're looking, at law firms, for example, people don't trust the big firms and the big brands. People trust people. And so there's been a huge, over the last 15 years, there's been a huge influx of solo and small firms versus these giant mega firms coming out, because that's what's actually working and what people are connecting with. And not just that, people are looking for specific types of lawyers with specific accreditations. I want a Black female lawyer for my divorce case or my custody case or whatever it is. So the more specific you are with your overall brand, the better you're going to perform. And the more specific you are to locations, because search is still very highly location based when it comes to businesses. So if you're targeting the entire United States, it's a lot harder than if you were just in Cleveland, Ohio, looking for these specific types of clients.
Well, Megan, to your point, especially with all the private equity going into legal, and we're focusing on legal, and I'm trying not to, but it's happening. With all the private equity going in, Morgan & Morgan's going into every market and spending $500,000 a month in PPC. The only way that a small family firm or a solo can compete is by leaning in to their personal brand, is by leaning into their identity, as you were talking about. Because there's so much consolidation in the space. They're now bi-coastal personal injury firms that are operating in California, Nevada, and Georgia and Florida, and they're under the same brand, and they're funded by private equity often. And your small family, again, mid-sized firm, can't compete with that. The way you compete is by differentiating yourself and being a real person.
And specifically with AEO. Imagine, to your point, that the organic results are so far down the page that the only chance a boutique law firm or a solo practitioner has of getting some visibility for a general search is through AEO.
Is that the term we've decided on, AEO? I've been advocating for AIO a lot, but I think AEO is winning.
AIO, GEO, which I don't even remember what that one's supposed to stand for.
Generative Engine Optimization.
Yeah.
AIO.
I don't know. I've been using AEO.
We're going to include a glossary in the show notes, since we're coining new terms and deciding consistent.
I still love the triple EAT. I think we're gonna blog about that tomorrow.
Cool. Love it. Love it.
So search engines, I'm going to go back to this. The SERP is changing a lot. Tell me what you guys are seeing from the search engine side of things. And I know we've already talked about it. It comes AI, it comes ads, it comes maps, and then somewhere down on like page 4 of page 1, if you catch what I'm saying, is the organic traffic. Tell me what you guys are seeing from like the customer experience and how they're reacting to it.
Well, for local businesses of all kinds, the biggest importance is going to be on your Google business listing. It's going to be seen and have more impact than even your website in certain standards. So there's a lot you can do to optimize your Google business profile, but there's nothing that's going to replace reviews. Reviews are still seen as the golden standard for trust and for authority. And so if you don't have good reviews, or if you don't have very many reviews, you're not going to perform as well as those people who do. And let me add an extra layer to that, and that's that people with actual substantive reviews are going to perform better than people with generic reviews, because all of these engines are also reading the content of the reviews. So if your keywords are located in the reviews, if the specific problem and solution are in the reviews, it's going to perform way better, which is why one of the things we do is really guide our clients through the process of leaving reviews so that we're getting the most out of them.
Megan, how are you guys incentivizing reviews? Sorry, Peter.
So for clients or for ourselves?
How are you helping your clients? I've heard some really good ideas from marketing agencies about how to get people to leave reviews, because it's so hard, right? Especially like in the PI space, you pick up your check and you're done. And
yeah, and that's the thing. And in the criminal space, it's really hard to get someone to detail their criminal history for a review. So that's probably like the bar is the highest in the criminal space. So it's a little bit different for everyone, and you have to be careful in certain industries, like with legal. There are a lot of ethics and professionalism rules against incentivizing reviews. So we're actually careful not to. If anything, we have them incentivize their support staff to get reviews. And it's most effective, typically, it's most effective through a text message and an in-person ask. If it's a PI firm and they're picking up a check, hey, can you leave a review really quick while you're waiting for us to get all of this paperwork together?
Put the QR code on the desk, sure.
Exactly. When they're at their highest peak, that is the time. The other time is maybe the case isn't complete, but you get an amazing email from a client saying, I'm just so happy at the direction, you're paying really close attention to my case, all of this stuff. If it's a really, really good message, we'll have the lawyer respond with like, hey, here's my Google business link. Could you just copy paste what you just said? That would be really helpful. So just a genuine ask. We haven't really done any incentives. What about you guys, David?
Just the reason I ask is I've just heard different ideas from different marketing agencies, and I went to law school. I never practiced, but I don't quite remember the ethical issues with soliciting reviews, but I know that there are some lines you shouldn't be crossing there. So it was a question of curiosity.
Yeah, so you can solicit, like you can ask in multiple different ways, but you can't say, if you leave a review, we'll give you a $50 gift card.
That sounds about right. I mean, I graduated almost 20 years ago, so don't hold me to it about this.
I wanted to jump in with a bit of an overview. And, one of the things that we started doing quite a while ago is to reverse engineer when we'd find something in an AI search result that really didn't belong there. And we wanted to figure out, like, why did this show up? And I think that's a really exciting part of everything that's going on. I know that, for my own company, I've had some surprising things come out of AI search. One of the more surprising ones this is a few months ago, and somebody got in touch with me who had a fairly large HVAC, electrical contracting firm. And so we started talking, and he told me that he was in Sydney, Australia, and that he asked ChatGPT, who's the best company for this job? And to me, that blows my mind. And so there's so much we don't know. Obviously, all of that is shifting very, very quickly. but it's to me, it's just it makes life exciting to keep ahead of what's going on, or at least keep up with it as much as you can.
So when we talk about brand right now, it's becoming so broad. It used to be like your website was your brand, and now it's your website and social media and Reddit and Quora and everywhere else that you can be found on the internet. And there's a problem, I think, of who's quarterbacking the marketing campaign. Because if you give a bunch of different employees access to AI tools, they can fragment the message across the internet pretty poorly. So when a customer wants to be the quarterback, when a marketing agency wants to be the quarterback, how are you guys seeing that affect the vibe test and what's looking natural and real for the customers from a content perspective?
Yeah, I think so the website, it really is still the hub of all of that. So the website is still, I think, the core of the brand that sets the tone, and everything else is like a little web that comes off of the website. So everything should be supporting each other. So the social media content, while you may run some specific campaigns, there should always be a vibe check on the social that is, does this make sense with the brand? Is this the same vibe as the story that we're telling on the website, and vice versa? And I don't think the client should ever be the quarterback, because they have too many ideas and they're never consistent. So you'll never create and build a consistent brand with the client in charge. I think typically an agency will have like one primary account manager that is responsible for ensuring the vibe, and then you'll have different content creators participating in putting all of those specialized pieces together.
Out of curiosity, are either of you using OpenClaw?
No, it's on my list to look into, as is every other tool, right?
The reason I ask is that it's a tool that you could use, for instance, to monitor all of the people who are posting about a particular company, and then also do an analysis where, is this on brand? Is this consistent? And get a report on that every day. So I think that type of AI tool can be very, very valuable for what you're talking about.
Interesting. Regarding who's quarterbacking content, and Megan, to your point of keeping content consistent, we've often engaged in a relationship with a law firm directly, and then with their marketing agency, where we're creating content and the marketing agency is doing backlinking on the SEO side, and then we're coordinating about keyword strategy. This is why we've really moved in our agency relationships to become a white label partner, because we are happy to work under the umbrella of a cohesive content strategy and brand strategy. Because to everyone's point, when you have disparate parties working on marketing for any entity, law firm or not, you're going to have a lot of variation in brand voice. And I think more than ever, you need a unified brand voice and ancillary assets to the website, matching what's on the website in order to have those third-party signals of brand identity to the AIs. If that makes any sense. That was a lot in one sentence. I'm glad you agree.
And to Peter's point too, like making sure, like verifying that brand across the internet using some of the tools accessible as well. So the brand is becoming a version of authority, like how well you represent it across multiple different websites or locations, right? What role are links in today's marketing world to generate authority as well? How are you guys seeing that play into this entire operation?
Well, we've already seen the pivot away from junk links. So for many, many years, people were saying, oh, you can buy 3,000 backlinks for $300, and like, you know, you'll get traffic this way and that way, and then it'll improve your SEO. And it actually did for a bit. So some of us jumped on that bandwagon and got some good results for a period of time. I was always a bit leery of it, so it's not one of the things that we ever incorporated. Luckily, because the people who did are now being penalized for that, because those are still kind of lingering in the ether out there. So, and a lot of people still don't know that. I think the people listening to this podcast probably know about that, but a lot of your clients will not know that. And sometimes they'll go out and they'll just buy a ton of backlinks on the, we didn't ask about profanity in advance of this call. I caught it. So they will go out and buy all these backlinks themselves, and then they'll come to the agency and be like, look, I helped. And you're like, oh, no, you didn't help, bro.
And now you're cleaning up.
So do you have to do a bunch of disavow links when you get new clients from other agencies?
Typically, yes. Link cleanup is the biggest. It's, we really, you always want new clients, but there's some new clients where I don't actually want them because of how much cleanup work is required to fix it.
Well, I remember the days you're talking about of like just link farms, and you're getting law firms a link on espressomachines.xyz. Why is that relevant, right? Like, why is that relevant to your law firm? But it worked. It worked back then.
It did work for a while, and we rode the high. It's just the same as the keyword stuff domains. Those worked really well for a while.
Yeah, I think, there's been a number of examples of that. I mean, the first one being keyword stuffing back in the early 2000s with Google, and people jumped on that, and then it came back to bite them. And then the link thing also, different SEO practices, the same thing. And I think also with AI generated content. And I was cautioning clients, a year and a half ago, that this stuff, if you are putting up this stuff that looks great, it's potentially going to come back to bite you because it's going to be identified as AI content, and not only AI content, but since it was so early in the game, really poor AI content.
I got to jump in on this with Google's guidance, like their explicit guidance is they do not care how content is produced, provided that it's helpful and demonstrates experience, expertise, authority, and trust. That said, if you post 1,000 pieces of AI generated content on your website in a day, you better be sure it's going to tank. Also, I think the Google has limited crawl budget. So as we're creating more and more AI slop, Google is less incentivized to rank it or to even crawl it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a world in which AI generated content without significant human input and oversight and massaging it to be a real piece of content is actually completely ignored by Google.
I agree with that, and I think we're going to start to see a less is more versus a more is more approach with SEO across the board, instead of doing all of these multitudes of, the geo-targeted location pages. They're still working right now, but I do think we're going to see a change in which simpler, less, higher quality is going to perform better.
The only pushback I have to that, and it's not self-serving, is that content freshness is such an important factor, right? And I agree. Like 7 years ago, I'd say, we were writing 5,000 word, 10,000 word car accident pages in competitive markets to get them to rank. And they were ranking. No human being is reading 10,000 words about car accidents. That was all for Google, but it worked. Now, more concise content is ranking well. But it falls off the first page really quickly for us. So like, it's not about volume of piece necessarily, but I think it's publishing cadence is how I would differentiate it. The publishing cadence, and if you want to call that volume, we can call it volume. But I see content that just sits there, and to your point, you were talking about updating it, but I just see fresh content ranking really, really well. Especially fresh content with schema attached to it is in the AI results for us. I mean, within 6 hours. I'll publish a piece of content and it's in the AI results in 6 hours.
Well, and fresh content can be updated content. So if you're taking a piece of well-ranked content and you're updating it by 20%, let's just say, you're republishing it as something new, that is actually, we get a lot of bang for our buck that way. And I explain it as like SEO compound interest. You have this blog and it performed really well. You update it by 20%, you republish it, and then now you're getting it fresh eyes on it again, and then so you're building upon your own search volume.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, I think that to revise something and saying revise March 12th, 2026 is going to get the attention, as long as it's still a decent piece of content. And a lot of people have seen really, really strong results with that.
Now, we're talking about the human aspect of this quite a bit, and how we're trying to manipulate the tools, or I guess work with the tools to show up the best we can. But I want to touch on how you guys are utilizing those AI tools internally to produce stuff that's actually valuable, because that's one of the biggest problems I see right now is agencies that aren't necessarily well versed on how to utilize their tools that have just become available to them. So maybe tell me, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see agencies making right now with those tools, and what you're doing that you think works?
I mean, the biggest mistake is definitely using them to just write your blogs, copy pasting them, and then throwing that onto your website. So many people are doing that. It's a complete waste of time. So many. And I think there are, every day we discover new ways to use AI effectively, whether that's, doing research, doing strategy work, like obviously having that human checked, but pumping in a lot of data, pumping in all of these call transcripts, right, from actual clients, and saying, distill the questions, use X amount of words, figure out what are the common themes, what are the biggest pressing issues, and like, how would you summarize that? That's been huge, as well as, forward thinking, what can we build as in terms of AI tools that are going to be useful? And one of them is, chat bots are so annoying. Like, everyone hates a chat bot because the tech on them is typically really, really bad. But one of the things that we're doing right now is building those chat bots based on years worth of actual call data, as well as all of the information that's on the website, so that the chat bot also sort of has the vibe and the cadence and the rhythm of the way that the actual attorney or someone on the attorney's staff would speak to answer those questions.
So Koa, you mentioned the term of like gaming the system, and I kind of feel as if, well, I do feel that, David has described, like a long form 5,000 word, 10,000 word piece that's specifically written for Google. It's not written for any human being. My feeling is that right now, with the shift to AI and AI search results, that the system has become more honest, that you're actually creating content for people more in addition to the bots. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's both though right now, because it's, we're creating for the LLMs, but we're also creating for the search engines at the same time. So in this stage in the game in 2026, I think it has to be both.
I'm going to jump in here. I had a conversation with someone that produced a piece of content that was ranking really well for their customer internationally. It's in the dental industry, and it had to do with eating a certain type of food and having your wisdom teeth out. And it showed, like, I had someone say that when they searched it in India without a company name, the exact company that they wanted to pop up popped up. And I'm like, it's showing it that it works. And I was curious, and this is the right group to chat with it about. That was written for LLMs and maybe for some people that are searching it, but it has absolutely no value for them, because there's no way for them to monetize that other than generating some brand visibility on the internet.
Well, brand visibility for a local dental office, like, you're not really getting any benefits from your content ranking in India. So I would say, yes, no, good, bad. I think that, your content actually targeting your actual potential client and customer is a better, we've done a lot of that with our lawyers. We had one in New Orleans, and we did this whole Mardi Gras schedule. So the website got all of this traffic because we published the Mardi Gras schedule, and that's what people were looking for. But it ended up being a lot of irrelevant traffic to the website that then signaled to Google that this was not a criminal defense law firm. This was a website that had information about Mardi Gras. So sometimes really high ranking content can be detrimental to your website.
I mean, I think in your example, Koa, I think it's kind of a win-win. I mean, obviously, somebody is doing searches in AI that would turn up that content, and if a lot of people are interested in India, so be it. As long as people in the target market are interested in it.
I kind of compared it to like guest blog posting, where the content's relevant to the industry, but it doesn't necessarily drive traffic to the website, and it's generating authority for the brand. And I was like, is this where we go with branding now, where it's content that's relevant, might drive some traffic, but it just feels so unintentional for actual ROI that it's kind of a confusing phase of content creation.
Well, I mean, I think that, the value that's been demonstrated by being cited by an LLM, the credibility that it gives you sort of outstrips all of those concerns, because the whole name of the game is you want your brand to have credibility. And however that can happen, then that's a win.
David and Megan, do you have any other thoughts on that?
I mean, I have a bit of a contrarian view. Traffic for traffic.
We want to know how everyone feels about it. Yeah.
Traffic for traffic's sake, it's a vanity metric, in my opinion, right? If you're not converting, so if you have a law firm, I'm going to go back to it. If you have a law firm and you're getting a bunch of Mardi Gras informational traffic, it's a vanity metric. Great. Your website's getting 30,000 hits a month, but like, is it turning into revenue for you? And Peter, I see what you're saying, because I do think brand recognition is a soft metric in terms of like the valuation of a business, right? Like, how well is this if your ultimate goal is to exit or sell your business or sell part of your business? If your website traffic isn't converting into paying customers or clients, I'm not sure what the value of it is, unless you're selling ad space. But in the professional services space, you shouldn't be, because that.
Do we believe that piece of content can boost them ahead of their competitors locally? Like, is that the new getting on page 1 or in the top 3, is just making sure that you're showing up for all random pieces of content for LLMs? Megan, no, that was quick. Share it.
I don't think so. I think it has to be specific for what it is that you're selling. So either your services or your product, I think it's got to be specific. And I think that by showing up for things that are not relevant, it's going to deter you from showing up for the things that are relevant. And with the LLMs, like, no one has a formula for this. Like, we all think we are actively figuring it out, but technically no one has the secret sauce to, like, how do you get in there? The results are shuffled, for one thing. I know that there's an increasing number of people who are finding me through ChatGPT, asking for legal marketing companies. And one of the things that I ask them is, like, what specifically did you search? And unfortunately, people rarely remember. But I am not the biggest or even one of the biggest legal marketing companies. I'm not doing all of these advertising things or these outbound sales things. I'm referral only. So for me to even be in that mix, it speaks to the trust-based content on my website, the fact that there's a lot of storytelling there, the fact that there's a lot of authority built up there, as well as, the testimonials, I think, play a factor too. But because LLMs are reading testimonials, they are looking at all of this information.
So, I mean, to come back to the example that you cited, Koa, this thing about wisdom teeth and diet was on a dental practice website, right?
It was, yeah. And it's relevant, yeah.
So it's relevant. So in my perspective, anything that can get somebody to click through to your site is valuable, unless you're posting garbage on your site that's irrelevant.
And this is outside of my area of expertise, but Megan, maybe you can speak to this. Isn't click-through rate a soft SEO factor? Like, aren't we looking at like how much, like, sites that get more traffic and have more links clicked through tend to be ranked higher generally? Am I making that up?
Yeah, so it's less of like, did you land on this page? Did you just click this and bounce? And it's the value point is, did you land on this page? And then did you go to the about page to see or read about the services? And then did you go to the contact page to actually contact them? So the value comes from like a multi-page visit and or a lengthier time on the actual website.
And Google's looking at that. I know they're looking at time on page, but they're actually looking at the user journey.
Yes.
To see if it converted and if they took an action. That's interesting.
To see like the user journey in terms of like, did they click around? Like, was there more that they wanted to see? Because if you just go to one page and you leave, then it signals that was probably a mistake that you got there in the first place.
Is a metric we're talking about bounce rate? Is that what I'm talking about? Bounce rate? That's what I thought.
So the term the word that comes to mind as we talk about this is, instead of authority, is like gravity. I think of like how centralized your content is and how focused it is. And if you branch too far out, how you're kind of leaving aspects of your company outside of that core focus that funnels down into revenue for you. I think that's interesting to say. How far is your blog outside of your comfort, like outside of your standard gravity zone, and is it pulling people away or is it pulling them towards your site? And then it kind of comes into that click-through rate, and really if they're the right target. We're almost out of time. I want to ask one last question for you guys, and it is to ask you to predict the future here. But over the next couple of years, we know AI is taking a huge role in marketing agencies. How do you see marketing agencies evolving over the next 2 years? What do you predict?
Well, I actually, there was an article in the New York Times today about what coders are doing right now, and basically, it's stuff that we probably all know about. Is that they're learning how to be prompt engineers, and some of them are horrified by that and feel that like the end of the world has come, and some are very excited about it. So I think the future is absolutely moving to where the mundane tasks are stuff that none of us are going to be able to bill for in a fairly short amount of time. But as AI rises, the human aspect that we've been discussing for the last hour is the thing that will provide value to clients and provide more value than it does even right now, because you're going to end up using machines, but as they say, it's not what you prompt, or it's not what you're looking for, but it's the questions you ask. And if I'm an expert at guiding clients to ask the right questions, or we do work for clients by asking the right questions, that's going to be the value in a successful marketing agency.
I would agree with that, and add that like these tools are actually allowing us to do some of those mundane tasks maybe on repeat, which saves time, but then also analyze big pieces of data and really drill it into areas where we can make improvements for our clients, and like really following that customer journey. And I think we are going to see a divide in marketing agencies, because some are going to quickly adopt all of this, and some of them are just afraid. So they're doing that thing where they're like, no, it's not going to happen. I don't want it to happen. And so they're not like jumping on board. It's just like every other area of evolving technology. You have to get on board now, or else you're going to be left behind later.
I couldn't agree with that more. Adapt or die, right? Like we all have to learn how to use these tools, and the bar has never been higher for providing good service to a client, but it's what you add as a human being and as a creative, like to both of your points, as you've been saying, like it frees us up from mundane tasks to be more creative and do better work and higher level work for our clients. And if we all have access to the same tools, all of our output is going to be the same without that extra element of our creativity and our experience.
This is so fascinating to me. I wish we could continue this conversation further. We're out of time. I'll end with one last thought here. For a little while, I was seeing the artistic SEOs feel like they were making a really strong comeback, because those that had technical knowledge for the last 10 to 15 years, 10 to 20 years, seem to be dominating SEO from the technical SEO standpoint. And lately, with the accessibility of the tools, some of the creatives, I feel like, have been enabled to be more powerful than they ever have before. And as you guys just discussed at the end, I started thinking about the ability to connect so many different data sources and utilize all of that for your SEO is also making technical SEOs incredibly powerful. And it's a really cool time to be in marketing to see the changes that are going on. I appreciate you guys joining us. I think this has been a great episode of SEO On Air, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.